So I was just thinking about some things. There's a reason why in psychology they're so hyper focused on childhood trauma because it is what's poured into you as a child. So the relationship you have with your parents is so important to look back on because those are the original and really like anyone who's around you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your parents, just whoever raised you. So generally your parents are going to be the ones, but like if you're raised by your grandparents or foster care or adoptive parents, like whoever raised you as a kid, the people you were around initially as you're developing as a child of like these are the people who pour into you. And so their emotions and intelligence of like their knowledge, they're raising you to like how to act. And so when you go out into the world and you start interacting with more people, then they start conflicting with other people's points of view. Like they put their opinions and they put their self inside of you, their love and their hate and their worry and their anxiety of like you see that and you observe it, and so you take it in and you absorb it. So observe it and then you absorb it because you're absorbing like their feelings of if they're anxious or worried or scared, like you're absorbing that into your feelings. If you are watching like what's going on, if there's chaos, if there's order, if there's lots of movement, like those things get locked into your psyche. And so again, observing is like into your mind with your eyes, so clarity. Well, the world is unclear as a child because you're unfamiliar with the world. You haven't seen a whole lot yet. So when things are different, you're like, whoa, hey, that's scary. And it's like, no, it's not scary. It's not going to hurt you. And then when you see something scary and it does hurt you, then that's something that gets locked into your memory of this is something I saw and then this is what happened. And it's like, so if you know, see an animal and then it bites you, well, you're going to think animals bite until you are repatterned, oh, I've met 100 other animals and that one animal bit. It's like, you're learning patterns from an early age in your psyche with your mind. And then also you're learning, through your neural network of like your, nervous system of like when you get scared, like when you get anxious, like you got to pace back and forth, and you got to fucking self-soothe, and different people suck their thumbs as kids, and then they take that into adulthood. So it's like everyone does that in some sort of way. So again, there's different, once you get into deeper levels of psychology, they have a better understanding of kind of pinning down the pathways and explaining of like, okay, this person had trauma in this way at this stage of development, therefore this. Like, so they, good psychologists who've spent their life studying it more than I have, and more, I've done enough to kind of explain this of like, they can get real in detail of like, you tell your story for an hour and they can go, that's telling me this happened when you were a kid. You just explained to me how this is happening right now. There's the connection. They draw the pathway with their words of like, there's the connection. Do you see how that's the same pattern? And like, they didn't know that before you told them. Just explaining your life out loud, they could just draw the line of like, there it is. And that's what specialists do. That's what masters do. Their craft is that they draw the pathway, they draw the line, because you don't know it yourself. You walked it, but you don't make the connection. So they make the connection from the present to the past, where you're like, oh, eureka moment, I see what you're saying. And then once you understand it, because they drew the pathway, you just had to be told the proper pathway. So again, people learn to build the pathway for you, and then they take you from the present to the past, and they say, do you see there? That's why you're doing this now. And so they go back and forth with you, and then you can see the pathway. With feelings, this is more, a lot of times, there's different kind of scientific studies, psychological studies, there's different kind of therapies, there's spiritual healing, and there's a whole other kind of thing outside of psychology of like, yoga and meditation and sound healing and magnetic frequencies. That's more of a scientific thing, but it's like there's all kinds of different ways that people can disrupt their connection between their subconscious and conscious mind and repattern behavior or disorganize, and restructure disorganized behavior. And people can take medications to chemically change, certain things in their body. So like if you have dopamine deficiency for ADHD, well, you take something that either replaces and or stimulates natural dopamine production. Or if you have like a serotonin deficiency, like in, I want to say, serotonin deficiency, depression, SSRI, serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Yes. So depression, anxiety, SSRI or an SSNI, which is a selective serotonin norepinephrine inhibitor. So again, there's lots of different medications. There's antipsychotics, there's mood stabilizers, there's hallucinogenics, like there's all kinds of different classes, and again, they're just labels to describe the effects so that you can have an understanding of what it's going to do if you take it. And then they do research and years of study and human trials, and then patients take it, and then they say, hey, that matches the research. Like the research says if you have A and you do B, then C happens. And it's like, well, yeah, well, it seems to match, statistically at higher rates than other things. So we're going to go with that as the best possible answer. Again, everyone's unique. So some stuff that is the best case answer is not the only thing that you need, because you might be on the best medication, but you actually need therapy as well. You might not take any medication and your therapy just kicks ass, and like that's all you needed. So again, you have to find personally for you, when you're healing your mind and you're healing trauma that's either happened from birth or even before birth. Like if you have trauma while you're still in the womb, it can affect you. So again, that's why peace in life is so important, because you can be traumatized before you're even out of your mother's belly all the way to right now. I mean, if my roof caved in, I'd be pretty traumatized. Well, if somebody is, taking drugs and getting beat up when you're in the womb, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of hormone release, there's a lot of things that happen from your external environment that start to affect you your entire life, and it adds up. And so by the time you're wherever you're at right now watching this video, you've been traumatized your whole life by something. And again, you could have a stable household, you could have lots of friends and family, you could have a relationship with God, you could be spiritual, you could have all kinds of different things. Here's the thing, is you have to be good at withstanding and growing from trauma, as opposed to just absorbing it and locking it in. That's why people either shut down, like trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are like reactions that you have, like, because again, a reaction is action that you take according to some sort of stimulus. So if somebody raises their fist at you like they're going to hit you and you flinch, that's an action. Well, if somebody raises their fist at you and you just start crying, that's also an action. Like, so people are going to take action, but it's a reaction to a stimulus. So they're reacting. Every time someone raises their fist, they're going to hit me. Every time someone does something, like you're trained through pattern trauma to respond a certain way. And so again, there's a study called Pavlov's dog. And so they ring a bell, and every time they ring the bell, they feed the dog. And then every time they ring the bell, the dog thinks it's going to get food, so its mouth starts watering. So again, you can think of this as a way to pattern behavior, because that's what they use to train dogs, of like, if you give me a positive action to a stimulus that I provide you, then I'm going to reward you. And then you get dopamine in your brain and you're happy. And so again, it builds a positive feedback loop is what it's called. So you can build positive feedback loops of positivity, light. You want to be in positive feedback loops. If you're in negative feedback loops, you're just going to be stuck in a negative feedback loop. So again, if you're breaking a traumatic energetic loop, you're breaking a negative feedback loop. And so again, you can just rewire it in the words of psychology of like, your brain, your thoughts are constantly negative based off of interactions with a certain person or certain stimulus in your life. Like if you have to go to work and you're so fucking miserable that you never want to go to work again, that is something that's locked in a loop in your head that you can't break out of, because you're stuck mentally. Your mindset is stuck in this loop of like, work is so fucking miserable. It's like, well, go get a different job and make it a positive feedback loop. Like you have to break the old habit and create a new habit, or else you just stay in the old habit. Because if you say work is miserable and then never want to work again, and then you never go back to a job, well, you're always going to say work is miserable. But I've had enjoyment in all my jobs because I tell myself I like to work. I say, I like to work. Why? I could say I fucking hate work, but it's like I don't want to go to work necessarily, but I like to go to work because I give myself a reason to like it. I make money and I like my coworkers and I feel like I have purpose. And you just like tell yourself constantly, like, what are all the reasons I like to go to work? What's the reason I like to go to work today? What's the reason I've had jobs in the past that I liked it? Is there something that I could change about, changing shifts, changing jobs, changing locations? Like, how can I make this the best possible situation? And you can do that every moment of every day. How can I improve my life in every moment and every day? Well, flexibility, fluidity, making quick decisions and taking decisive action. Because again, the longer you stay in these loops, the longer you're going to be miserable. If you're in a miserable loop, if you're in a sad loop, if you're in a anxious loop, and you never break that, and it starts to spread of negative feedback loops grow bigger because they create that same pattern in other things associated with it. So if you have, let's say, a negative feedback loop with one family member, for me, it's like my dad. So it's like I have a negative feedback loop that still plays in my head of like, it's not as negative as it's been in the past. And I forgive him in my heart. Like, he doesn't cause me any pain and feelings, but in my head is my thoughts of like, he wasn't there, so I felt neglected as a child. And so I don't miss him now because I didn't miss him like he missed me, of like I was there and he wasn't there. So he missed being around me. And so I feel like he missed me. That's how I feel, of like he missed me. He didn't scoop me up. And so as a kid, if your dad's not there to scoop you up, oh man, that hurts. So it's like I can't even identify with words like the feeling of he missed me. He wasn't there. He didn't see me. He didn't care about me. But now, as an adult, I'm 34, I don't really care. I mean, again, I don't need him to pay my bills or take care of me or give me food or do all the things that I needed him when I was little. So as a grown man who takes care of himself, whatever. And so when he reaches out, again, it's called a power dynamic shift of now he needs me because he's older, let's say, and now he wants a relationship with me. Well, too damn bad, Dad. You missed your chance. You missed me. And now he misses me. Well, he missed me back then in a different way because I felt like he missed me and I missed him. But I'm saying those two words in different contexts of he didn't scoop me up because he was off doing what he wanted to do. Well, now he's trying to scoop me up because the power dynamic shifted and now he wants my attention. Well, if you missed me when I was little and didn't have anything going on and couldn't give you anything that you wanted, and then you come back when I have stuff that you wanted, time, attention, money, whatever that he's wanting from me, well, sorry, dude, I don't have it for you. Again, no hate in my heart. I hope you have a good life, but you missed me back then when I needed you. I don't need you right now. So, but sorry. And again, you can form a relationship with someone if you want to, of like, if you heal in your heart, you can heal in your mind because you can tell your mind what to do. You just have to give it the right script. So it's like, I could have a relationship with my dad because I don't hate him. I just choose not to because there's nothing about his pattern of behavior that impresses me or makes me want to be around him. I wouldn't be around him if he wasn't my dad. So just because he is my dad, whatever. Because there's not an environment that I want to invite him into in my life, and there's not an environment where I would go to him. So again, he doesn't find me. He wants me to come to him. So again, he wants my attention and he wants me to go find him and travel states and states and states to go find him. And I'm like, that's a whole lot of asking for something that you don't necessarily deserve, of like, what are you giving me? And I don't say that of like, I don't need anything from him, of just like, what are you even offering me? What does this offer? And it's like, not enjoyment. It's like, boring and I don't really care. And he's not a very nice person just in general, like to anyone. He just literally wants to just do what he wants to do. And it's like, then go do what you want to do, brother. Like, it's like I can talk to him like a friend. Like I just said that of like, he's like a friend to me of like, yeah, whatever, man. And that's a weird power. It's a weird thing to say because he is my dad, but it's also like he didn't raise me how I needed him to raise me. So he is kind of more like a friend to me of like, and like a distant friend who I'm not really, I wouldn't be proud to say I'm like his friend. I want to bring him around my wife. I want to bring him around people because it's like, it's not because I judge him. It's just like, I don't want to bring his lifestyle into my lifestyle. Maybe that's a good example. I don't want to bring his life into my life necessarily. If there was something about his life that I enjoyed, if he was fun, if he reached out, if he was pleasant, like if there was something redeeming, but if people don't have redeeming qualities, that's okay. Walk away. And if someone has a quality that's so chaotic or awful that like none of the positive qualities like outrule it, then you need to like cut that off immediately. Of just like as soon as you identify it, like just like done. I'm done. I'm not going to stand for this. So again, there's a lesson I learned with this is like in past relationships I've been cheated on. Specifically, I just got out of a 10-year divorce and multiple times was I cheated on. And there's like you can forgive someone of like, listen, you're dealing with your own stuff. Like it hurt me a lot, but you're also hurting yourself more than anything. And I would never remarry someone like that because they're in a pattern that I don't agree with. And so they can have their pattern, but I would never remarry someone who divorced me and then also was doing things with other men because that's just not my belief. She can go have her belief anywhere she wants. Now she divorced me and listen, whatever. It's over. It's in the past. So you can move on quickly when you can release. It's an advantage advantage of people who have the right mindset is they can release things quicker. You can just tell yourself like, I think I'm over it. And you get caught up in some feelings, and it's okay to feel your feelings, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to talk to family and go to therapy and do all the things that you need to do. But here's the trick. The quicker you can convince your mind and body to release and find the proper therapies to help you release whatever trauma you have, then you're over it and you're healed. You're whole. You're no longer in trauma and you're no longer in anxiety and pain and sadness. Like once you release that in your mind and in your heart, then you feel good again. Listen, I can talk about it all day, just like this, calm, just like I talked about everything else of like, it doesn't hurt me. I know it's wrong because I didn't like it and I wouldn't like to ever be around it. And I wouldn't tell someone to do that. So it's like, it's just not for me. Again, she made her decisions. If she enjoys it, then that's why you get a divorce from someone. If your lifestyles end up, separating, then again, I'm someone who believes in if you get married, you stay married and you work through things. But there are non-negotiables, and I didn't ask for it, but I can speak freely on like what I believe because that's what I believed when I got married, and that's what I still believe. Of like once you get married, that's it. Like you should always work it out. And it's like, that's not saying you should be miserable. That's saying you should work to improve your marriage. Go to therapy and like improve your fucking life together. Like if you're miserable, then there's external factors or internal factors that can be fixed. So you have to take responsibility in a relationship of marriage, especially because again, when you're married to someone, like you're locked in eternally. But you can use that same concept and just scale it to different relationships of like the relationship you have with your father, the relationship you have with your mother, the relationship you have with friends. Like, here's the thing is like people will tell you a lot about themselves, not even with their like words and their own actions, but how they have relationships with other people. This is why people say like, with power dynamics, especially, you want to just kind of watch like what people are doing and why. So an example that's brought up a lot is like the way people treat service staff. So like the way someone talks to a waiter or waitress tells a lot about someone because you have money that they want that you have to freely give as a tip. And so the nicer that they act and the better service that they provide you and the better experience that you're given, they would expect that you would give freely a higher tip. Here's the thing though, is, well, some people don't agree with that. Some people don't deal, like, some people don't live in that reality and they don't have that same principle. That's more of a general just principle. I agree with it, of like, if someone's a good server, you should tip them well. And here's the thing, I even go one step further. If someone is a bad server, I'll even tip them well still. Of like, they're just trying to do their fucking job. They're probably having a bad day. If I go out to a restaurant, I'm tipping somebody well because I know how to cook. And so I go out for the experience. And so I don't base it off of the server only. I'm not going to let them ruin my experience. Like, I feel good when I leave a good tip. I don't like give a fuck what they're doing to me. I would prefer, I would always 100% prefer someone to be a good server, but I'm going to give the server who's better more money. So again, if I give someone a 20% tip who's a bad server, imagine what I do when someone is an excellent server. I'll write them a note on a receipt. I'll give them extra money. I'll freaking shake their hand and say, I hope you have an amazing day. Keep doing whatever you're doing. And so again, you can pass along positive energy in a lot of different ways of money, praise and saying, hey, you're doing a really good job. I see you. Writing a thoughtful note that like takes extra effort to think of something and then do it. So again, if you think of something and then do it, those are all important things. So if you think of 4 things to someone I'm not going to do that to someone who's a shitty server. I'm going to just give them money and say, hey, thanks. But if someone is doing above and extra for you, I try to go above and extra for them and reciprocate. And so again, I believe in reciprocation of, if someone gives you, 10%, well, give them back 10%. If you give them 12%, well, hey, look, you did better than they did. Some people will give 10% and they expect you to give 100%. I'm 110% kind of a person of like, I live my life like full speed. And I probably don't, I'm like fucking falling asleep. So I probably don't look that way, but like I go full speed in life all the time. Just having a good time. Like I'm having a good time here recording this video, talking about stuff that I like to think about and stuff I like to read. So it's like I can be inactive, sitting in bed, fucking recording YouTube videos, but I'm still giving my 100% because I'm just hanging out, just enjoying myself. So it's like you can shift gears in a lot of different ways of like I can stay busy and stay relaxed because I'm just making content, where some people can't do that of like, oh my God, I have to do content and I have to be I have to set it up and the perfect, and it's like, I don't have to do all that. I can do all that, and I can probably set it up faster than them when they're all anxious and doing all crazy. And then I can also just like pick up my camera and be chill because I'm in a chill mood. So it's like, I accept my chill mood. That's what I want to be in. I can also be in a frantic mood. I can also be in an angry mood. I can also be in whatever mood I want, because your mind and feelings and mood and, all these different terms that we use to describe different concepts, like you have control over those or you don't. So I practice control over myself in all the kind of ways that I can, of like, I control what I eat. I control how much I go to the gym. I control how I use my money. I control how much I give when I go to, to a restaurant. And there's reasons why I control, and there's reasons why I make the decisions that I can make. And then there's in the moment, like, call an audible. Maybe I'm just feeling a little wild today. Maybe I'll just leave $100 tip. It's like you're allowed to do that at any moment, like with anything. You can call an audible for any reason whatsoever. Of like, yeah, I was gonna do it, but I'm not. When you can't make those kind of decisions, you're no longer in control. So it's like an example of this is when you join the military. So I was in the military for 5 years as an Army Ranger medic. I had to go through all the training, so basic AIT, RASP, SOCM, all these different kind of programs and schools and stuff, just to get to my unit. And then I served in my unit, and then I got out after 5 years. And it's like, during that whole time, I was under the control of, I raised my right hand and volunteered and signed all the contracts, signed all the papers of like, I was going to give at least 4 years of service. So again, there is a level of control that they have over me of, if I just lay in bed and not do anything, eventually they're going to get angry and they're going to try to force me to do something, and then they're going to kick me out. And they're going to say, hey, you're dishonorably discharged. And it's like, so the consequences of whatever you're contractually obligated to do, if you don't do them, well, you have to accept that too. Of like, there's some people who would rather sit in bed and get kicked out because they do it. And so again, you just have to accept the consequences of your actions. So even if you're in a contract, even if you're under control, you just accept the consequences of, like, if you're miserable where you're at, you can just accept if you're miserable and just continue to do what you're doing or not do it, and then break the contract. So it's like you're allowed to break contracts. People think they can't break contracts all the time, and it's like, well, you just have to accept the consequences of it. And so again, when you sign anything or you verbally agree to anything, you just have to be willing to lose whatever the consequences are. And so it's like people get so worried about money obligations, and I'm like, people lose friends and family over dumb shit all the time, and they don't even think of it like a contract, because relationships are a contract. Whatever relationship you agree upon with someone, that's just like a level of a contract you sign with money. Of like, if you're friends with someone, you're a friend. That's a contract you signed. If someone gave birth to you, well, that's your parent. Like, that's not really necessarily a contract, but it can be, because your parents can guilt trip you of, hey, I worked so hard and birthed you and fed you and did all the things that I have to do as a parent. And it's like, well, you didn't have to do that. You chose to do it because you made a baby and then took care of me. Or there's all these kind of things of, like, everything can be a contract. If you think you're stuck, you are. If you think you're not stuck, guess what? You can find a way to break free of that necessary contract. If you accept the consequences, that's one way. There's other ways too. You can make the other person break the contract first, of like, you're just gonna be unruly and chaotic, and they're gonna be like, I will do anything for you to just leave. Well, then they broke the contract because you just caused enough disruption into their life or into their business or into whatever your contract is obligated to do, of like, hey, I'm going to contractually obligate you to work this job for this period of time, and we're going to give you this set amount of money. Well, if they're giving you that set amount of money and then you're doing an ass job and they want to hire someone else, well, they might fire you and say, hey, I'll break the contract and give you a severance package. You're just not doing well enough. So both sides technically can break the contract. So again, this is something I just thought of now, is like, so a marriage of, like, my ex wanted a divorce. And so I said, listen, if you want it, I'm not going to fight you to be in a marriage, because I believe a marriage is contractually equal. If both parties aren't equally invested in staying in, and one person wants to leave, I will try to go to therapy and have discussions and do all these things to keep it together. And if the person keeps walking away, well, I'm not going to force someone to do something they don't want to do, including eternally bonding to me, under the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So again, my belief system was true to me. My actions were true to me, and so my words matched my belief, my actions. So again, this is what's called, in the energetic spiritual community, being in alignment. So again, it's just a pattern of, like, your pattern is the same of, like, what you believe in your heart, what you say out loud, and what you think in your mind is all aligned. And so again, the pattern that you can interpret is in alignment. So when you're walking in alignment and speaking in alignment and acting in alignment and doing all the things in alignment, it's just because the truth of what you're doing and the reality of what you're doing and the way you feel about it and the way others feel about it, like, the more you start to look around inside and outside, you're like, oh, everything's actually matching up. And it's like, well, it's because you're doing, talking, walking, existing in the same pattern. And so again, if you're doing that, then your life is going to go the direction that you want if you have the proper goal. And so again, I always tell people to set really big goals, because if you set a big goal and you're in alignment with how you just exist, well, guess what? You're going to get there pretty quick. And so if you set, well, I mean, it depends on how far you set it, but it's like, if you're, want to be a great grandparent, like, maybe not. That might not be the best goal, but maybe it is, because the first thing you got to do is have kids. So if you want to be a great grandparent, actually, yeah, let me take that back. That's a good goal, because guess what? If you fall short of your goal, you're going to get closer. So instead of worrying about finding the perfect partner, if that's your primary goal, if your primary goal is to be a great grandparent, well, the first thing you need to do is just start procreating, make kids. Because if you have kids and then they have kids and then they have kids, well, that's the simplest solution. Of the faster everyone can have kids, the faster you reach your goal. But again, then you can slow it back down and say, well, maybe that's not the best plan, because if I have kids with someone and then, what happens if we can't take care of the kid? Well, then you're not going to be a great grandparent. And so it's like you can talk your way through all these goals and situations and relationships, and you can change them in various different patterns and in various different ways to create a reality in your mind, like further down the road, of like, what am I going to dream about? What is my imagination going to tell me? Like, what is my future going to be? What do I want my future to be? And like, you can pick and choose certain words to kind of like give yourself a better idea of how you would want to think of your reality in the future as a plan. And so if you think of your reality as a plan, and then walk in alignment, act in alignment, talk in alignment, everything is, matching that goal, well, you're going to get there eventually. And here's the other thing. If you let go of the outcome of, I'm going to work as hard as I can to get there, and you let go of it happening, then you stop worrying about, has it happened yet? And you start just continuing to walk towards it. So when you stop looking at like, this has to happen by this time, and you start just doing what you can to get to where you're going, you get there faster because you don't get distracted. If you say it has to happen, again, the more things that you have to have happen, the harder it is to get there. You're setting a harder goal when you add multiple layers of, I want to do this, but it has to be set in this condition, and it has to happen in this time, and it has to do this, and it has to do this, and this, and this, and again, you can set a really big dream and keep it simple and broad. Or you could set like a super big dream that's like hyper specific, but it's going to be harder because you're going to have to be very intentional about how you get there and how you craft it and how you do all these things. So again, some people are different. Some people just have a simple goal. I just want to be happy. That's the only thing I want. Well, as long as you're happy, you're doing a good job, and guess what? You're moving as fast as possible because you're already there. You already completed your goal. And so then it's like, well, I want to maintain happiness for a longer period of time. Well, it's like, well, how long? And so you can set different goals depending on what you want to do, and you can change them, and you can have multiple, and you can have a whole network of goals of like, well, I want to do this by this time, but in this area, I want to do this in this time, and in this area, I want to do, like, you can make more and more and more and more and more and more. So again, when people get limited in their thinking, they get limited in their goal accomplishment because they don't even think it's possible. And so when I tell people, like, be limitless, think impossible things are possible, you just never know of like, are you going to just transform into a freaking fire-breathing dragon tomorrow? That's not a realistic goal. You're probably not. Again, anything's possible. I don't think that's the one that you would want to set though. But you could say like, I'm going to be in the best physical shape that I can be. I'm 34 now. In 10 years at 44, I want to be in the best possible shape as possible. And I'm going to start today doing everything I can that by the time I'm 10 years older, it's like, that's a specific goal. And it's like, those goals are good of like, we learned something in nursing called SMART goals. And so there's different like, schools of thought on how to set goals and how to be intentional, and, depending on what you want. Is there a feeling you're chasing? Is there a thought you're chasing? Is there a monetary value you're chasing? Is it God you're chasing? Is it, being all those things at the same time? Like, you have to tell yourself what you're chasing. And again, if you have one goal, it's really easy to get there because nothing else matters. If you make a network of goals and everything has to be a certain way, well, then it becomes really difficult because then everything matters. So you get to choose your pace of life, and choose your how you feel about stuff. Of like, if you make a network of goals and everything has to be perfect, well, the external environment's not going to agree with that. So you have to fight for that really hard against all the factors of like an ever-changing life around you. And depending on how much stability versus instability you have in your life and get exposed to, it's going to be even harder. So if you have a stable life around stable people, around stable environments, and you make a really big network goal, guess what? You can make it happen because you have more time, resources, energy, support, network. Like, there's all these things that work in your favor. But if you set that same goal and you don't have any of those things, well, it's going to be really hard. You're going to have to work extra hard, and you're going to have to like hope some things line up for you, because if something goes wrong, it's going to be that much harder. But if something goes really right, well, it might not be that hard after all. And then you can reach it and then set another goal, or you can change your goal, and moment to moment, you can change your goal. Just if you can change your thought, you can change your goal. But it depends on, do you want to keep your goal? Or would you rather do something else? So again, based on external factors, you might think your whole life like, oh, this is all I want to do is, win an Olympic gold medal in swimming. And then you get to your first qualifying race and you're like, you know what? I don't want to do this. Most people would say, wow, that's wild. That's crazy that you worked that hard. And that's called a sunken cost fallacy of like, everything in the past has already happened. So if you attach yourself to all that work and you force yourself to be miserable to get to where you were supposed to be, you're supposed to be there, well, then you locked yourself in your own contract. You don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You choose with your free will what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. You choose everything about your existence, except what other people choose and what else is going on around you. Like internally, you get to choose whatever you want. You're the only one with control internally. Externally, you don't have control. So you have to do certain things, take action, speak, do all these things external to yourself, because then it changes the external environment. So if someone comes up and they're super angry, and internally you don't want to be angry, you want to be peaceful, well, you match them as a peaceful person, and then they diffuse and they're no longer angry. If they're angry and you don't want to be disrupted, and you get angry, well, now you have two angry people yelling at each other, and that's called escalation. If two angry people are yelling at each other and it continues to escalate, well, then they get in a fight, and then they get in physical fight, and then they, again, if you can control yourself internally, you can control the external environment the best way that you can in the moment of like, again, if you're not feeling so good on the inside and you're, sad, and someone walks over and they're angry, and then you're sad and they're angry and they're yelling at you, and you're just like, now my day's even worse. And it's like, or you could say, man, what the fuck is this asshole talking about? Like, and you start laughing to yourself, like, this guy's so fucking angry, I didn't even do anything to him. The way you think about things actually can help control your feelings. And here's an important distinction is like a lot of men think and then feel, and women feel and then think. So if women feel they're in danger, they don't even know why. That's called intuition. Where men think, hey, where's the danger at? I need to see it. Show me where it's at. Oh, it's at 5 o'clock. And oh yeah, that's danger. And then what do I want to do about it? And then they get nervous or they get angry or, whatever they feel. And again, there's variance between different people. These are generalizations, but so yeah, anyway, that's 37 minutes and 35 seconds of just riffing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck.